The 22nd of April, 9:23 a.m. Old Bailey. Defendant's antechamber. Well, hey out here, everyone. Lostity here, back in action for more Defending Attraction. That's right. I'm afraid that our little boy has gotten into trouble again. So it's up to locomotive student Naruhodo Esquire to help him out. Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in nervous sweat at the same time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line! Good morning! Good morning, Mr. Natsume?
It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here.
Yes, we somehow managed to prove he had stabbed Miss Green in the back. But now this! Another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole! Can't keep coming to court! I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruto, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh! Mr. Natsume, good morning. Yes, good morning. So, here we are again. Yes, again. Traditional assistant Miss Mikotoba has requires. Oh, it's the bad news! Oh dear. You heard. Did you? If you come in shouting on the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you want to say! Oh. I am sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Mrs. Sato. Now, what is it? Well, it seems the prosecution in today's trial will be led by Lord Bavrik von Zeeks. Van Zeeks? Oh, no, no! Oh, no, no! The so-called Reaper of the Bailey. The most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Soseki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to pull through, but still. Perhaps Mr. Natsume, acquittal in the last trial, wasn't the end of the matter, after all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says nothing could save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zeeks is the prosecutor. Oh no! But even if the person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end, one way or another. Experience firsthand. The man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal, right here in the Old Bailey. Why do I have to put up with the what's called ice pouring into my whole soul again? Cursed by evil spirits and now by the Reaper! Petrifying perils, potentially! Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsume. Look on the student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire! Yes? I'm innocent, you have to believe me! You more than anyone now. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle. Promise. This promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Poor man. Poor guy. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go. Ah, yes, I forgot to say. I'm afraid we won't be allowed to make it. Mr. Schlums, I mean. That's probably for the best. Oh! If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness, if Lord Van Zeeks were to notice. You prey on it more mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling. Mr. Naruhodo. Alright. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, locomotive student Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Well said. I swear on the sword at my side, and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer could do. I'll set you free with honor. Oh, yes. Poor guy. The second time within a week. The 22nd of February, 9:40 a.m., the Old Bailey courtroom. Oh, it's them again. In the name of the Majesty of the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. I now call upon the consuls for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Japanese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for the inevitable defeat. It's not just in my imagination. It's really there. Lord Von Zeeks has such animosity towards us. Japanese for some reason. It's some time ago now that we first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all. Yet now he's back in court. Though, for some reason, only went on defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Still, this isn't the first time to be pondering that. I had to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Absolutely, I had a feeling this lot. I wasn't innocent before. I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right. Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually. I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Make this quick. I couldn't agree more. I need to take home 5 bob tonight, or the missus will go through the roof. Oh, may the Lord show us all the light here. Lead his flock to the righteous verdict. The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? Quite extraordinary to think that the power of the judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public, and that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt. 6 citizens of London, chosen at random, or at least that's the idea. The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Very well. Let us commence the trial. Lord Van Zeeks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetrate a most blood-curdling crime. Namely, that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an innocent Englishman. Explain the circumstances of the crime. The prosecution calls its first witness to the stand. The detective responsible for investigating the scene, the accused himself. Witness your names and occupations, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Grayson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division.
Soseki, Natsume from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture.
Mr. Natsume.
Yes, my lord, sir.
I'm quite sure you're not mistaken. That you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. Remember as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord. But close enough.
Believe me, this is the last place I want to be.
Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Gerberdin household, where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor, a room of the victim, Mr. William Shamsby. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim the night in question. Mr. Shamsby collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by Sitchin. He was found the following morning when the landlord suspected something was wrong, broke down the door. Oh, no he didn't. The landlord didn't break down the door. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident? Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to, or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamsby, lives to tell the tale, he very nearly didn't. Man was halfway to heaven. First found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord. I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how it looked. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right. Everyone present, I believe that's exactly what he was. Very well. Very well. I shall accept the photographic print as evidence for the court. Okay. Now then, Mr. Natsume.
Yes!
As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this, juncture?
They're haunted by evil spirits.
Good gracious, what's haunted?
My lodgings! There's been a whole series of strange mishappenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. No one was dead by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me? What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times.
Killed, Mr. Natsume? How?
Even on the fateful night it happened, when I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room, I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, and before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me!
You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsume.
But it's so cold! My running nose would freeze! The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed?
Thank you, witness. I believe I have reasonably a clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord. One more conclusive point. Conclusive? Go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal. And he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief. Order, order! Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. Suzuki-san is innocent, and why has the victim accused him? Well, Mr. Natsume, what have you to say to this accusation?
That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result! Never will I touch tea again! Never!
The public pump was frozen, you said? That's not information we've heard before. That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for the formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objections? None whatsoever, my lord. Good. Then you will give your account of events on the night in question to the court. Now.
Yeah. Yes, my lord!
A catastrophic night. Well, this poor guy.
It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot tea. After which I went back to my room at around 11. Ah, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Stress night takes some time to have an effect on the body. You don't keel over immediately after taking it. Victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. Argument still stands. Yes, I see. All seems relatively straightforward.
Excuse me, but the testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsume claims his tea to have been harmless, presumably though. The teacups have been examined for traces of poison, haven't they?
Why did I think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did you hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect, substance? How could he overlook something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? My learned Nipponi's friend is falsely incested. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? It's simple enough. There was none left. Not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific technologies, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. You only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than the tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. I see. Thank you. The matter is clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You could see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accuser's guilt. The client's fate is all but sealed. In mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. That's right. I can feel the 6 of the jurors looking daggers at me. I can't let them beat me down. I won't. Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord! Well, here we go again! So I don't think it's here, around 9 o'clock the evening. Actually, we could get somebody else to present towards that effect. And the fact that he left, because we remember that he left, right? Let's press this. Were you and your neighbor good friends then? Oh no! We weren't friends! Not at all! Not at all! Never! Ever! Simple. No. What has sufficed? Then, why did he decide to pay him a visit? Mr. Shamspeare fancies himself as having great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we find much to talk about together. Now, no Nipponese can understand the finer points of English literature. Bro, what? So racist sometimes, like fucking hell, dude. What? The night in question. That was the topic of the conversation as well, I presume. It was the day of my last trial when I was acquitted. I just arrived back at my lodgings. But I ran into Shamspeare outside of the street. That was around 6 o'clock. We exchanged one or two pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though. I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have any irritations? No! Not one! Not two! Not any! Not at all! Never! Ever! Simple no would have sufficed, I feel. I love how they're so sibling coded, because they both said things similar, both in mind and just out of mind. It's too good. And tell the court what happened when you visited the victim's room. Okay, heated debate over literature. What was it about, though? Hold it! A literary debate about Shakespeare's works? I think you said, didn't you? Shakespeare? Oh, very worthy topic of conversation, I must say. I'll say this right now. No. Shakespeare's awful. Shakespeare is legitimately one of the worst writers out there. Motherfucker read a sitcom. Like, you're all like, oh, he invented this world. No. He's the equivalent of a sitcom writer. I ain't gonna give him props for that. For just having to be a sitcom writer in the early days. Nah. Oh, yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet! Who
was stronger. It was a proud family, pleasurable parley.
Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger? No, I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go?
Well, we both agreed that we have reached a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. So we battled it out in a Greco-Roman style, naturally.
What?
Mr. Chancellor had all sorts of costumes in his room for just such a contest.
But when you say reenactment, I mean, you were actually in costume?
He as Romeo, I as Juliet, and after a ferocious, wild tussle.
Bro, what? The tussle sounds like you did something that was not tussling, my dude. Not tussling.
I, as Juliet, came out on top. A victory I'll cherish forever.
I did not imagine the terrible scene of carnage. The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct?
I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I've heard that he is too poor to have tea himself, you see.
It's true. There was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room.
I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly.
So why is everyone looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless, of course it was! And do you have any basis for that statement, witness? It was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door. So,
Hold it!
I want to know. Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room. Anywhere, was there? Was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. Must have licked it dry. Which is a pity, because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison. You say that you returned home to your room 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsume.
Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it.
Landlord was able to verify that, as it happens. He confirmed the defendant went back to his room 11 that night. How is the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector. When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, lamps in other parts of the house flicker. Yes, Mr. Garberdin seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his attendants.
There's only one key to Mr. Shanspeare's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from inside his room.
The victim has confirmed that to be the case, yes?
So I'm right. My tea was harmless. Completely harmless. You take poison, you die. Everyone knows that.
Not that simple, I'm afraid.
What do you mean?
Takes some time to affect the body, eh? Alright.
Hold it!
How long does it take for the symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner, I was speaking to the guard about 30 minutes after the poison's consumed. Did the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping, stiffness, eventually dies from asphyxiation. There's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested. Onset of symptoms. There's a lot of different types of poisons in the world, that's for sure. Oh dear, death by poisoning again. Always so awful. 30 minutes is a long time. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. Can't deny that. It further degrades Tsuki-san's alibi. The medical report for the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. Spells it out, really. Accuses the only person who could have done it. Very well. The court will add this report to the court record as evidence. Okay. We'll have to look at that. Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms. Great. I'm perfectly able to argue it still stands. I think this is the one right here.
Hold it!
Argument still stands, you say? This is what Mr. Natsume has been saying, isn't it? Pair of them drank tea together that night. So if there was poison in it, the victim wouldn't have been able to lock the door after the accused left it later on. Exactly! Me and my dear innocent, sweet and innocent, I tell you! I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. See, Dragonite is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. As long as you did that, Mr. Shamspear could have locked the door after you'd gone. But no! He drank the tea straight away. The battle over whether Romeo or Juliet was stronger. That came after the tea. Do you have any evidence to support that statement? In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying, drink tea while it's hot! Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. Afraid that's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in this matter. No! That's the extent of their testimony, is it? I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruto. Of course, go ahead. Mr. Natsume is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and so persistently. Yet Inspector Grayson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating. I agree. We need to find an inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think. I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsume guilty. I see it. What we need to focus on is the poison and the tea. Let's listen carefully to this testimony again. Yes. Alright, so we actually... Can we go to the court record? I guess through presenting. How can I look? So let's look at this. William Shamspear, ingestion of a small quantity of strychnium, toxic effects, high likelihood of the substance having been mixed with the tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained. The poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. on the 21st of February. What? Around 1:30, but he left. He left before that. So if that's the case, if they don't kneel over that god, the victim would have been able to lock. Argument still stands. I don't think that's the case, but I don't have the exact thing that he's talking about. Okay, so this is the books. Nearby street map or books. Okay. What is this? I thought there's a little something in it. Whoever opened this envelope didn't bother with a letter opener or scissors, did they? Yes, whoever opened it was clearly someone with an unrefined temperament. And judging from the angle of the rip here, the person in question must have been right-handed. Mrs. Sato? I think perhaps someone's been reading too much of the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. You can never read too much, Mr. Naruto. Never. Fair enough. We're not getting anything from that. Cheap bar of soap. Oh! What is it, Mr. Naruto? This bar of soap. When we first found it, I could have sworn there was some sort of round disc in this depression just here. A reddish one. Yes, you're right. I remember it too. Now the depression is completely empty. Where did the disc have gone? Okay. A reddish medallion vanished. Huh. Maybe it was like being frozen and that's why it kept in there? Okay. This must be the cup that Mr. Shansper was drinking from then. It's stained on the inside. He does that, I'm afraid. Even green tea. Oh, really? Never noticed before. You never noticed? Well, I never leave it in the cup long enough to leave a mark. I'd like to gulp it down. Drink tea while it's hot. It's the Japanese way, isn't it? Oh dear. Some people seem to have the wrong idea about our culture. Most of them are Japanese. And this is his tea? But... Huh. This is a teacup from Mr. Natsume was drinking. Yes, unlike the other one, the inside of the cup is completely clean. I suppose he must have drunk the contents before the tea had a chance to leave a mark. I always gulp it down too. Sorry, Mr. Naruto? Well, if you just sip it little by little, it goes cold. Clearly, I shall have to instruct you on the proper way to take tea. There's no tea ring inside of Mr. Natsume. I see. But there is some in there. So maybe at the rate that they were doing it? Here, what is this? I don't know what that is. Anything else that I can look at? I think so. At 1:30. It came from the pocket watch, eh? Okay. They don't keel over immediately while taking it. That's a thing, okay? A small quantity. High likelihood this is being mixed with tea. No sample could be tested. As much as I want to go straight after him, I don't think that's what we're supposed to be doing, actually. After which I went back to my room at around 11. Yeah, but the argument doesn't stand when it's like 1, you know?
Objection.
The argument still stands, you say? I think not, Inspector. Mom? I think you'll find that you've overlooked a very significant chronological inconsistency here. A chrono what? What are you on about? According to this report, The victim must have been consumed. The victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning, and yet the defendant, Mr. Natsume, left the victim's room at 11. Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. In other words, if there was poison in the tea that Mr. Natsume brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it and 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? Oh! Ah! The defendant's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zeeks? Oh no, he's doing the swirly bits. Pray forgive the discourtesy, for my mind has wandered. What? What do you mean it's wine-watered? Oh my god. Van Zeeks, you're killing me here. You're killing me! With that being said, we'll get right back on track next time as we continue our journey through The Great Ace Attorney. Resolve. Cool. Till then, like, comment, subscribe if you can. Sayonara. Bye-bye.